short performance physical battery. And this has 3 components to it. You have a balance test, and then you have a 4-meter gait assessment and a 5-time sit to stand test. We're going to start with demonstrating the balance assessments. And so we demonstrate those. So the first test we're going to do is have him stand with his feet together. You're going to demonstrate all of these tasks before he, have the patient perform them. Go ahead and sit up first. And there's standardized instructions for this as well. So the script tells the patient, now let's begin the evaluation. I would like you to try to move your body into different movements. I will first describe and show each movement to you. Then I'd like you to try to do it. If you cannot do a particular movement or you feel you would be unsafe, then we do not have to perform it. All right. So you're gonna describe the position. So I'm gonna have you stand with your feet together like this. You're gonna hold it until I tell you to stop. And you would be timing for 10 seconds. Okay, so say for instance he moved his feet or started to fall over and needed assistance to kind of maintain that position. You would stop the test. You wouldn't proceed to the next position because obviously if he can't do the feet together, he wouldn't be able to do the semi-tandem stance. Okay. One of the ways to standardize getting into this position is having like a chair, or you could even use like an IV pole so that he can put his fingertips to kind of balance himself and get into that position. And then once he brings his hand down is when you would start the timer for that 10 seconds. Does that make sense? Just go ahead and sit back down. And depending on the patient and their fatigue level, you can either have them maintain the standing and read the directions for like the next task and demonstrate it, or if they need to sit down and take a break in between, you can have them do that as well. Okay, so then I would demonstrate the next balance test, which would be the semi-tandem, so having the heel of one foot kind of close to the toes of the other foot, but not like a full-on tandem. And then I would have him stand up. And you can provide assistance to get him into that position, but then you have to like let go once you start the timer. Okay, so then you would start the timer. You want to make sure that you are you have a finger on like the timer so you can stop it if he does lose the position, because otherwise if you're trying to catch him, and then you might lose the ability to stop the timer and have to redo it. All right, and then we'll do the last one, and you'll stand with your heel right in front of your other toe. And with this test, they can do either foot in front. It doesn't make a difference. It's just whatever they feel most comfortable doing. Okay. So the next one that we're going to do is the gait speed test. So this one you want to have a 4-meter course. If you're unable to have a 4-meter course, we say that you can have a 3-meter, but try to find a place where you can have a full 4 meters to perform that test. We actually have a machine to measure out the course. You could use like a trundle wheel to measure it out, but most of those are in feet, and so you would have to convert the 4 meters, and it's like 13.1. So you can measure it that way as well and just mark it with tape. We use a chain here just to make our lives a little bit easier. See here, we barely have enough room for the 4 meters. So with this test, you're going to have them line up at the starting position with their toes like right at the starting line. You're going to start the timer once they cross that starting line, and then once they have 1 foot fully across the finish line is when you stop. Not half a foot, they need to have a whole foot across the finish line to stop. And you're going to actually perform this twice, so you can have them come down and then have them come back for like the second one. So we'll demonstrate that. And I think in the manual there is a figure that shows like how their feet need to be. and there's standardized instruction for this one. With the balance assessments, they're not allowed to use a cane or gait aid, but with the walking assessment, the gait speed assessment, they can use a cane or walking aid for that one. And with this one, unlike the 6-minute walk test, you're gonna be kind of like right at a diagonal position from them, okay? So you start the timer. And then tell them to walk past that finish line so you can get a good assessment of that. And they don't, because some people want to stop once they get to the finish. So if they do that and they don't have one foot fully across, that kind of messes up your time there. Now we're going to do the chair stand test. So with this one, sometimes, I know it has like the single chair stand test. If I've already seen him stand with like the FSS ICU without using his hands, sometimes I'll say that I already assessed that. But if you haven't like formally like assessed that, we would do the single stand test now. So Bahi, do you feel that it would be safe to stand up without using your hands to assist?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd have him have his hands across his shoulders. All right, Bahi, go ahead and stand up for me. All right, so he can stand up without using his hands. Go ahead and sit back down. So if he needed to use his hands to stand up, I would not perform the 5-time sit to stand test because he would not get any points for that. The other time that you would not be able to score the 5-time sit to stand is if he was unable to finish all 5 stands, okay? The other thing is, I know he's sitting on like the edge of a bed. Depending on the type of bed, some like ICU beds, the mattresses are super like fluffy from like the air. So I don't like using those because they kind of like wobble all over the place, and I feel like that throws off their time. So I'll pull in like one of the guest chairs that's more like this, that's like a more stable surface, and perform the 5-time sit to stand from that instead. And the ideal like height of the surface is 13 to 14, or not 13, 17 to 18 inches. And then you'll always be measuring the distance. So say for instance I was doing it from the surface of this bed, you would measure from like about where he's sitting down to the floor and just mark that, okay? Does that make sense? All right. So then for timing the 5-time sit to stand, you're gonna tell him to go. When you say go, you start timing. And then you'll stop the timer as he comes into that full, like the 5th stand. And he needs to come all the way up into that stand, okay, with each stand. Okay? So then can do 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3. So you can see he's coming all the way up. If they do this like half stand, you would not count that. And so basically the test wouldn't you wouldn't be able to count that as their stand. All right, last one, and you would stop the timer. All right. Any questions with that? Alright, so that is it for the short physical performance battery test.